He's had one heck of an NFL career, but it looks like it's end of the road for Matt Ryan. Probably not the way he wanted to go out, but sometimes things don't go the way you planned.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On BC. I'm your host, AJ Black. Happy Thursday, everyone. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, the official sports book of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. Now, I want to get into this episode into a big helping pile of Eagles in the NFL because there's not really much going on in terms of the world of BC sports. The transfer portal has been very quiet for men's basketball. Football is on an off day from practice, and they haven't really done much recently in terms of things to talk about. But NFL free agency kicked off yesterday, and there were at least a half dozen former Boston College players either signing new contracts, being released, finding new homes, getting traded. There's all sorts of movement with former Eagles, but no Boston College player has had a more illustrious career than the news that came down today. And that is quarterback Matt Ryan was released by the Indianapolis Colts. Now, this was a absolute awful season for Matt Ryan and really a disastrous end of what could be his starting career in the NFL. He tied for the second most giveaways in the NFL with 18. He ranked 27th in passing yards attempt, 28th in passer rating, and 31st in touchdown to interception ratio with 14-13. Indianapolis went 4-7-1 with Matty Ice as their quarterback before they went on to Sam Ehlinger. Now, some of this was not Matt Ryan's fault. Just like BC was last year, their offensive line for the Colts was horrendous. They needed to retool the offensive line. They didn't do that. They also had no running game because Jonathan Taylor got hurt and Matt Ryan had to play without him. So you don't want to blame everything here on Matt Ryan, but it still does not look good. And after, all the success that he had with the Atlanta Falcons, with winning the NFL MVP, going to the Super Bowl, and I don't think Atlanta fans want to talk about what happened in the Super Bowl. Me as a Pats fan would love to talk about what happened at the Super Bowl, but regardless, he has some incredible numbers in NFL history. He's tied for 10th for the most quarterback wins of all time with 124, ranks 5th in completions with 5,551, 7th in passing yards in 62,792, and 9th in passing touchdowns. He's one of 6 players in NFL history with 350 plus passing touchdowns and an MVP to his name, joining the likes of Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, and Dan Marino. That is some big time company for Matt Ryan to hang out with there. So it begs the question now. You look at all the things that he's done. Is he a Hall of Famer? I have to say yes. I mean, if you look at the raw numbers of what Matt Ryan has done, he's one of the best quarterbacks of all time. If you're, and I've heard buzz about like Phillip Rivers and Eli Manning, and I know Eli Manning has 2 rings, but that was, whatever. He had his moments. Matt Ryan put up bigger numbers than all those guys. And I have to think that he's put it together enough that he's going to get to that next level and get that gold jacket and be enshrined in Canton. Is he the best player in the NFL Boston College has produced in recent history? That's a tougher question. What do you think? Do you think he was I don't think he, in terms of a quarterback, in his prime, there were at least 2 or 3 quarterbacks that played in the league that were better than him. at any time. And that's not a shot at Matt Ryan. Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and Aaron Rodgers at least are 3. You could make arguments for any other a bunch of other quarterbacks at different times as well. BC has had a recent player that I think transcended his position, and that was Luke Kuechly. So I don't think I would put Matt Ryan as the best BC player in the last 20 years. I think I'd have to put Kuechly. That being said, he's had quite the longevity. He was drafted in 2008, and he's on to year 15 or 16 right now. Man, and I could get into and wax poetic about his career at BC because I was there as a student when he was playing, and he was actually in my building when I was an RA. I loved watching him. I mean, some of those games, you remember that Clemson game where he got his head almost knocked off and he still won that game. Come from behind win. The win in obviously the 2007 win against Virginia Tech. That was enormous. Getting BC to an ACC championship in just their second year in the conference. I mean, you see all the jokes about BC football, and I get it right now. With they're irrelevant. Matt Ryan and a few other guys really put BC on the map in the ACC when they first joined the conference, and he was special. He ended up going top 5 in the 2006 draft. I don't have the numbers in front of me right now. And I remember when he was drafted by the Atlanta Falcons, there were fans out there that didn't like it. Atlanta was just coming off of years of Mike Vick and the excitement and the way he ran the ball. And you get the same stuff that you hear now, like when you hear with Zay Flowers. I don't want a Boston College player. What has Boston College done? You see that all the time. And he shut those fans up real fast. And really, he's put together quite the career. Now, in a moment, I'm going to talk about what's next for Matt Ryan and look at some of the other players that also found new homes during NFL free agency. We'll get into some more Eagles in the NFL. But before we do that, let's get into FanDuel. The midway point of the NBA season is here, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scores and threes drained. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a bigger chance at a bigger payout with a same-game parlay. So don't miss the chance to get your no-sweat first bet of up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Locked On Boston College, AJ Black here. And we are talking about Eagles in the NFL. But right now we're chatting about Matt Ryan. Matty Ice, a favorite of Boston College fans around the globe. And we were talking a little bit about his disastrous run at with the Colts. He made, I think, over $35 or $37 million last year in Indianapolis. So it's hard to feel too bad for him because he's absolutely loaded, making good money. But it's still a crappy way to end a starting career. Now, what does Matt Ryan have next? Well, you look around the league and you don't see many starting options left. Like, there's no way he could just jump in and be a starter. And given the struggles that he had last year, I just don't see that being reasonable right at this point in his career. Like, when you have such low statistics and and GMs are going to look at that tape and go, man, he looked bad. They're not going to want to just pin their next season on that. So what does that mean? Does he call it a career? Does he end it? I mean, he's had 15, 16 seasons in the NFL at this point. Is this the end for Matt Ryan? Or there's lots of opportunities for him to go out and show, at least take one more attempt at another go for it. I mean, you look at all these teams out there. I look at rosters like the Pittsburgh Steelers with Kenny Pickett, and you look up and down teams that don't have good backup quarterbacks. Maybe someone like the Detroit Lions. They don't have, they have Jared Goff, but he was inconsistent at best. Maybe Minnesota, with Kirk Cousins or there's teams out there. Atlanta Falcons. Maybe he goes back to that. Yeah, he's not going to the Atlanta Falcons. I'm kidding, folks. But there's teams out there that don't have quarterbacks right now. And you're not going to bring Matt Ryan in to be a starter. But you could bring him in to challenge a young quarterback, to mentor a young quarterback, and see if you can get some more mileage out of him. He's talented enough. He's got enough in there. And if he gets a good offensive line behind him, I feel like he could still be a serviceable NFL quarterback. But a team's gonna take that chance. And we don't know where Matt's head is at. Does he want to continue playing? Maybe he's saying, you know what, I've had a big enough career. I'm gonna call it quits now. I mean, it's all going to be up to him too. There's been quarterbacks out there look at Tom Brady. I mean, Tom Brady was 45 years old. He's a different story, but he technically could have kept going. Matt Ryan might have that same flow, or maybe he's a guy that just wants to be home with his kids. He's got young kids at home with his wife. Maybe he wants to just stay at home and do that kind of thing, or be front office, or on those NFL shows. I could see him on an NFL show. The opportunities are there too. So we'll have to wait and see. I mean, he was just released by the Colts today, so it's not like he has a rush to make decisions, but there's plenty of teams out there that are signing the Jacoby Brissetts and other quarterbacks that I'm going, I just saw, what was his name? Jarrett Stidham just got signed. Like, could Matt Ryan do a better job than those guys? I think so. I think he could. But we'll have to wait and see. Now, let's turn the page a little bit here and talk about two other names that also are going to find free agency soon, and that is Cleveland Browns safety John Johnson and New York Jets wide receiver Jeff Smith. We'll start with Jeff Smith. Jeff Smith is one of my favorite stories in the NFL because he went undrafted to the Jets in 2000, I think it was 16, 17, and has put together a solid career. I mean, I think he has like 40 catches, but he's been on the Jets roster every single season. He's pulling an NFL paycheck. That's not bad for a guy that started at Boston College as a quarterback. Let's not think about 2015 when Adazio and I forget which offensive coordinator it was at that time, decided that it was a good idea to put Jeff Smith at quarterback. But he's found some room and he's fast. That's the thing. He's got NFL speed and they still talk about his NFL speed. I don't think it's the end of the road for Jeff Smith. Speed will always find roles in the NFL, especially at wide receiver. And he's been on some really bad Jets teams with no quarterbacks to throw on the ball. I mean, look at last year. I know he's been hurt for parts of the last couple seasons, but when you have no one throwing you the football, there's only so far you can go. You put a guy like Jeff Smith on a decent offense and a guy with a quarterback. I always go to the Chiefs. Chiefs love speed. I don't know if they would be interested in him. They've been doing a nice job of filling gaps, but they just lost Juju Smith-Schuster to the Patriots. So who knows? Maybe they have a room on their roster. But pending that there's no injury to Jeff Smith that's kind of hindering what he can and can't do, I can see him finding another role. Same thing with John Johnson. John Johnson was a big free agent signing for the Browns just a couple years ago. And he's only 27 years old. And I thought that was saying, he played 17 games last year. He had 101 tackles, 4 interceptions, and 3 in 2021 and 1 last season and 9 pass breakups. So he was on the Browns for 2 years. I wonder, like, he seems like an easy pickup for somebody. Some team's going to pick him up because he's too good. He's one of those like secondary players that BC has that they put in the NFL. And I think he'll find a role. And it's funny, we talk about all these Eagles in the NFL and I go back to this and all the Jeff Hafley haters out there are going to like lap this up. But I go back to all these players that are making all these moves, and who was their coach? Steve Adazio. We all rip on Adazio for all the crap that he did for this program and the painful football he played. But look at all the players he threw into the league. It's pretty impressive. I have to give him props when props are due. Now, in our final segment, I'm going to jump in and talk a little bit about a few other Eagles that are finding new spots in the NFL. We'll get into all of that in just a moment. Locked on BC, AJ Black. We're talking about Eagles in the NFL. This is a special episode for today because there's not a lot going on. Tomorrow's show, we'll talk about the baseball game. Hopefully there'll be some transfer portal news, and there's a big weekend in visitors for BC football. If you have not subscribed to our Eagle Insiders, where I'm the publisher of part of 247 Sports, I have up-to-date information on all these players. And right now, we have a special deal for 50% off an annual subscription. If you want to get in, head over to Eagle Insiders, subscribe today. Also, we're slowly trekking our way to 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel. If you're listening to this and you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel, go to youtube.com, subscribe to Locked On BC. We're going to give away 2 BC shirts from Home Field Apparel to subscribers to our channel, but you have to sign up. Go over there right now. Now, I kind of breezed through a lot of these roster moves on some of the older episodes, so I wanted to kind of just dive in and talk about Hunter Long, who I think is finally going to get a good chance at a better situation heading to the Los Angeles Rams after 2 seasons where I honestly did not see him play all that much with the Miami Dolphins. He was stuck behind Matt Gesicki, and there was other tight ends in front of him. He was buried on that depth chart. And I know he was hurt at times too. But heading to the Rams, I think we'll give him a chance to move up the depth chart. I'm not saying he's moving to a good team. The Rams are going to stink. they are in salary cap hell right now. And from what I've heard, it sounds like Matt Stafford might try to get his way out of there, and they're going to try to get out of that contract. Whatever the case, the Rams, they're shedding contracts as much as they can to try to get down as much as they can, because it's getting ugly there. That being said, it's good that he's going to a team that needs a tight end. So, he was traded for Jalen Ramsey again, salary dump. This is a good chance for Hunter Long. He really, I was wondering at the end of last year if the Dolphins were just going to flat out release him, but they had team control. So, he's cheap. They're not going to do that, but he has a chance now. Can he make it out in LA? We'll have to wait and see. So he's another one. And then we have the big time contracts, which I said it in last week's episode. BC should be shouting to the heavens, and they must have heard me, because the team went out there and they made graphics for at least Chris Lindstrom, who is now the highest paid guard in the NFL. Again, this was a guy that was drafted in the top 15 of the NFL draft by the Atlanta Falcons. Again, the fans crapped all over it because he went to Boston College and he shut them up. He was hurt that first season. He was back again last year, and he was the highest rated guard by Pro Football Focus. He was awesome last year. He had a mammoth year on a team that was basically invisible. The Falcons are terrible. They're going to have the top 5 pick this year. They brought him in to fix the offensive, as a piece to fix that offensive line. And credit to their GM, they nailed it. They went out there, they got the right guy, they got him. Now, folks are going to say, and I get it, is he being overpaid? I mean, you're paying a ton of money for a guard. But when you have really good players, you don't screw around with that kind of stuff. If you see that's his value, you pay it, as long as it's not, hurting another part of your program, right? So I'm really happy for Lindstrom. He's around from where I live. He was an under-recruited guy who came to BC, again, Steve Adazio, got coached up really high, became an All-American, went off, became a top 15 draft pick, and he's soaring in the NFL. Great story. And then Matt Milano, who has become the leader of Bills defense, signed a 2-year extension, and he's getting paid. I mean, these Eagles in the NFL are getting money left and right. This is great, right? For a program that needs good publicity. You've got Matt Milano. Every time Matt Milano's name comes out, you hear the name Boston College almost every single time. Well, he's going to stay at Buffalo. It's a great spot for him because he is like that defense. He is part of a team that, I mean, we talked about Hunter Long being in a bad situation, but a good one for him personally so he could grow. Matt Milano is good, and he's on a very good team that could end up in the Super Bowl. And it would be because it's going to go as far as his defensive play takes them. That is great. Now, we're all, the last Eagle in the NFL that we're all going to have to wait for is Zay Flowers. We're going to have to wait to see what happens with this guy. Depending on the mock drafts you see, I see a lot of him in the first round. I still see a couple where he's not listed. But I think he'll be the next one that gets a nice big size contract and a first round draft pick. We'll be back tomorrow. Hey AJ, let's slow down here first. Again, if you guys are listening, hit that YouTube channel up right now. Let's hear what the commenters have to say. Marty Party saying about Matt Ryan, if he just kneeled 3 times after the Julio Jones catch, he'd be a Super Bowl champ. So, quick story about myself. I watched that game with my in-laws. It was before I had kids. And I almost wanted to, that's how bad of a fan I am. I wanted to leave at halftime because I was like, this game's over. The Patriots are going to lose. And my father-in-law said to me, you got to stay. You never know what's going to happen. I was like, no, they're going to lose. I got to work tomorrow. I'm going to go to bed. And I stayed. And the rest is history, right? Dennis Monahan says he's Phillip Rivers, a borderline Hall of Famer. All right, continuing on. Dennis says, great discussion, but Luke was the best BC guy in the last 20 years in the NFL, so Dennis agrees with me. And then we have David Smith saying, it is time for Matt Ryan to hang it up. Yeah, I mean, he showed it, right? Drew Adams says one of the best games for BC was the Virginia Tech comeback. That game was insane. I mean, it's one that I don't think any BC fan is going to forget. And it's the reason Matt Ryan is going to be, a legend in Chestnut Hill, right? That game itself at night in prime time in Blacksburg was humongous. If the younger folks won't get it because they didn't get to see it, but that game was huge. Realist of the real. Ryan was always a very good quarterback, played in a conference with Breeze, Rodgers, and Wilson, and ended up getting overshadowed. Len Suber says 2007 Boston College team with Matt Ryan was absolutely fantastic. I go back to the biggest question in BC history. What would have happened? I think this was the year BJ Raji was academically ineligible. What would that team have looked like if they had BJ Raji still playing? He was out that year. He didn't get to play. Okay. Dennis Monahan says, looking forward to Hunter out here in SoCal. Thank you so much to our listeners. You guys are great. I love our comment section. Again, that's a reason why to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I have some really great fans out there. And if you subscribe, hit the bell. You'll know when I go live. I usually go live around like 8:15 every night during the week. And I'd love to have you guys in the comment section because it gets a chance to talk to you all as well. You guys are all passionate, great fans. And I love having you on the show all the time. This is AJ Black. I'm going to head out. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I pulled that one together because when there's not a lot of BC news, I can't just all of a sudden just like pop up BC news. And this was a great one that I wanted to talk about with like a little bit of positivity too about guys in the NFL. All right. Thank you all so much. Follow me on Twitter at AJ Black _BC. I'll see you all again tomorrow for our Friday episode. Take care, everyone.